Hey everybody, this is Lynn from A Bit of Birdsong, and I wanted to stop in and share a journal that I made this week, and I made it with the intention of showing how easy it is to make a one signature junk journal. I originally felt like I wouldn't want to sew a journal page, the pages in. I originally felt like I wouldn't want to sew the journal pages in, but I ended up loving it. I love the process. It is very easy. It might take a try or two to get it to where you think it's perfect. But this journal is just one signature, and of course the signature is the name for a group of papers that is bound into a book. And a book can have one signature, it can have 20, it can have more than that. This journal is basically a piece of fabric cut so that it covers a standard 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper when it's folded in half. And the inside is, and I'm sorry, my hands look really dirty. It's because I have cleaned all afternoon. I've cleaned inside, I cleaned my vehicle, which is a Honda Element. I love it. But my hands, I feel like I just can't get them clean, and they're so dry. Anyway, they're clean. They just might not look like it. This journal, like I said, the fabric is cut to fit over the paper. I love this heavy, heavy upholstery fabric. It makes a really nice cover. It's got a nice texture. I love the way it unravels a little bit on the edges. And the inside is cut pretty much the same size, maybe a little bit smaller, but you can tell that it's not perfect. There's like, what is that? A few millimeters where the paper sticks up above the fabric and kind of the opposite down at the bottom. But I just love it. I love it because it is handmade and it's not perfect and it's one of a kind. Nobody will find this mass-produced in a store. There are fabric pockets sewn into the fronts of my journals. This in the back is actually just a little note card where I stitched some fabric pieces that I had left over, and it's kind of like a quilt. I've seen Nazi on Amity Bloom do that kind of thing, and I think it's just adorable. But let's just go through the pages. A lot of the pages are either hand-dyed or they're vintage. And I love that. I like to work with authentic vintage papers. There's a card in the front, and it is stitched onto a heavy piece of an old calendar page, just like the inside of this. There are vintage millinery leaves throughout, pieces of vintage velvet ribbon. You can see little fabric tabs on the pages, old photographs stapled in. There are pieces of paper where an image has been stamped, and it leaves room to write. I tell you, the way I like to use a journal, I probably go through one of these a month, and I do write. I write on the pages where there's space available to write. I paper clip things in if I have receipts, ephemera such as ticket stubs, playbills, things that I want to save, cards that I get from people for holidays or whatever, and when it's full, I tie it up and put it on a shelf, and it's a wonderful memory, and it's a wonderful record keeper as well. But you could write on these cards. This is a vintage card, catalog card, and it says Architecture, India. I love that because the gypsies, as they were called, true Bohemian people, they originated from India, it is believed. There's some of the dyed paper and this beautiful cardstock. I don't use a lot of just plain cardstock. I do sometimes, but I like to have every page dressed up just a little bit. There's a pretty little fabric piece sewn on, and my dear friend Betty, I can thank her for her inspiration there. I love the fabric pieces throughout. This is some wallpaper. This is a beautiful garden scene from a magazine. And I love the little flower petals. They're just put in with a brad, so it's very easy to do. I took 3 little pieces from an artificial flower and put those on. I always save beautiful magazine pages. On this one, I love the bottles and how they're sitting in the little wire basket. That actually is some scrapbook paper. I loved the design on it. I think it looks very bohemian. And I love the lace trim. I guess that's, what is it called? Hem binding? I can't remember. I try to put little stamps or something on every page, whether it's a postage stamp or an ink stamp. On this page you can see that there's one of the vintage velvet leaves on either side, and they're glued together with tacky glue. That holds really well, and that makes a pretty tag. That's just a stamped image that's been sewn onto the page with a postage stamp. So there's a lot of writing space there. This is a vintage map. I love, this came out of a book and it had, I don't know, maybe 10 pages in it. So it was 10 maps and they're just gorgeous. The color, everything. I love maps. There's another wallpaper page and some gorgeous gold paper that I cut out a piece. I guess that's about 5 by 7 and just sewed it in a zigzag stitch all the way around. And of course you decorate your pages before you stitch them into your cover. And stitching the pages into the cover is very easy, I promise. Probably the most tedious part is making sure all of the pages stay lined up so that you can put the needle through that one hole in every page. But other than that, I think it's very easy. There's a beautiful image from an old rooster calendar. Susan Wingate did that. And this is an old calendar page from 1968. I loved that it said Harvest Moon. In my journals, I love to put what I call a centerfold in. And this is just a gorgeous image from an art book. It just, it made me think about Romeo and Juliet. I'm not sure if it says what painting that is. It says Love Among the Ruins, 1894. That's just gorgeous. And there's a little piece of ribbon that had the peacock feathers on it, and of course that matches this magazine page that I saved because I just felt like the peacock feathers were so gorgeous. They look like, it looks bohemian to me. Just really pretty, like something someone would collect and keep and use to decorate their beautiful, beautiful room or beautiful wagon or whatever. This is from an old package of dress fasteners that I found, and it was basically falling apart, but it just looks to me like something from the 40s. I can just see the Victory campaign, and I scanned it and healed all the areas that were just really whited out with damage, and it just is so pretty printed out. I love it. This is a big piece from a sari that I was fortunate enough to find. Again, it's probably, 5 by 7 or thereabouts, and I just sewed it onto this half of the page. It was very easy to do. You just kind of have to hold it down while you're sewing. It can seem sort of intimidating if it moves around too much. You could probably paper clip the edges and of course remove them before you get to them with the needle. When you get to a part that has a lot of embellishment, what I do is even take my foot off of the presser pedal and sometimes just manually roll the needle through these areas so that if I hit something hard, I can adjust so that I don't break or bend my needle. There's a stamped image from a botanical stamp that I have, a little fabric curtain, and an old postage stamp from Portugal. Oh, I love this fabric. I don't know if you can see the shiny gold in this. Sometimes the camera doesn't pick it up. And there's a fabric tab, another stamped image, and there's a stamp of a flower. I think that's clematis. and then I put fabric over half of it. I just love layering, and that is the way I've always worked with fabrics. I used to alter clothes, take things apart and put them back together in a different way. I called myself gently Gothic because I do really like a Gothic vibe, but I also like a lot of Victorian lace and just all the brocades, and I would take things and just change the hem of things, make it longer, make it shorter, put different layers of fabrics. And then I met my beautiful friend Betty, and we have become so close from Etsy and Facebook and just getting to know each other. And she made me aware that you could layer with paper just like you can with fabric. And I thought, oh, that is exactly what I want to do. Here is a little tag that's made from a vintage playing card on some cardstock. And this is some trim that came unraveled from some upholstery trim. And it's kind of hard to explain, but this was all together and it was stitched up and down like a zigzag. And it was meant to go on in that fashion, I believe, like the edge of a big pillow or something. But when you unraveled it, you ended up with all of this. And that is just a clear pocket. Of course, when you sew your pockets on, you do any trim that you want to do first and then sew the bottom part. And some of these pages, maybe I liked one side, but I didn't like the other. So I would lay two pieces together and stitch all the way around the edge, and then that would become my one page. There's some more dyed paper and a beautiful garden image. I love that garden path. That's my vision for my backyard. Starting over with a garden. I wish you could take a walk through the garden I left that was 20 years old. And that garden just had my heart. It was so beautiful. Maybe I can share a picture so that you can see how lovely it was. This is a postcard that shows the Great Wall of China. This made me think about silk and all the beautiful fabrics that you see in the Asian countries, just the colors and the architecture. More dyed paper, and there's just a pretty image of some flowers in a vase. When I use scrapbooking paper or cardstock, I try to get something that just completely ties in with the theme, and I don't overdo it. I don't want my journals to be just hard and stiff with nothing but cardstock. There's nothing wrong with that, and I've done journals like that, but for the journals that I just love to sit and look at and make notes in and keep, I love a mix of things. There's a little card that says the story of. I can't remember if that was 7 Gypsies or anyway. And there's a piece of fabric with some vintage velvet ribbon around the edge. And there's another leaf. And this page, I believe this was a paper placemat. And I folded it in half and sewed around 3 sides. And then of course folded it again to make this page. And now we're at the back, and there's the little card that I sewed fabric on. Another beautiful postcard showing a lady with an instrument, and there's a little card that says, created by Lynn, a bit of birdsong, April 19th, 2018. And there's the back. For this, and we'll go back to the center, this is just a pretty piece of cord or ribbon that's just tied around the pages. You can see it would slide right off. And I put 2 charms, one on either piece, or one on either end. This one's a stone, which is seems very bohemian to me. And then this is an old key. I love old keys. I collect them. Now, I will say that I've had some questions about making journals, And sometimes it's from people that I meet locally. I had a lady today ask me what I was going to do with the things I was purchasing, and I told her, and she wanted a card, and she was asking about how to make them. And then I've had some questions when I share online, if I would share how I do a journal. And I decided that I would try to do a video showing how I do a journal from start to finish and how I stitch the pages together. And I'm going to offer some kits with the covers already made so that you have this wonderful fabric and something on the inside. And then I'm going to put everything in so that you can make your own and have the video to refer to if you need to. Several people have done this, and I think it's wonderful. I absolutely love that there is this resurgence of people who want to journal. I've journaled for 30 years, and if you've watched my channel, you know that I read from my old journals, and I would not trade those memories for anything. They just bring back a flood of feelings of what it was exactly like to stand in my kitchen 25 years ago, or to rock one of my babies asleep, or to listen to a conversation between my 3 sons when they were 2 and 5 and 7. It's magnificent. There's nothing to compare to having written down things that happened. And I think that it's nice that we have people showing how to journal and people who are offering kits. That said, I'm going to end the video now. I did want to show you what this one looks like, and I will be back with my video showing how I did this, how long it takes, and what you need, and I will have some kits listed. Thank you so much for stopping in. I really appreciate it. I know everybody's busy, so I appreciate your time. I'll see you later. Bye.